Today we're going to look at wireless networks, and this is the one you've probably used the most. So, wireless networks come in two topologies. They are ad hoc, and the one we looked at last time, which is star. I like to know exactly the meaning of some words and why they're used. Ad hoc comes from the Latin, and it's translated as for this. If you look at the Cambridge Dictionary, some of the examples it explains as for a particular purpose or not planned. Now, with ad hoc devices, what we're probably looking at the most of are things like Bluetooth. So, for example, in this case, you would be looking at, that's a Wii remote and wireless controller. And most wireless games controllers, they use Bluetooth. Or something that's quite popular now is Bluetooth speakers. So that's a nice little device where you can kind of connect wirelessly from your phone, and that will connect directly to a Bluetooth speaker for you. Some people refer to this not so much as a local area network, but a personal area network. That's PAN. And that is because it is a network dedicated around just one person and the devices associated with them. Right, so now the thing about Bluetooth is it can connect any odd how. Is you don't need a central point. So one of the key things about Bluetooth is there is no central point, like a hub or a switch. You don't need it. Is the devices will talk to each other quite happily. And Bluetooth is the most common of these. I've discussed this on one of the previous videos, but its disadvantage is range, and however, its advantage is it's incredibly cheap and to work that way. So that is an ad hoc type of wireless, and the most common, as I said, was Bluetooth. So there we go. Okay, so the next network we come to is the star network. So you'll notice in the center, the one thing you do have here is your hub. Or switch. Because each connection is considered to be independent of each other connection. So if we have your mobile phone can wirelessly connect totally independently to everything else, and so could your laptop, and even to a certain extent your wireless printer will quite happily connect independently. It is effectively like a star network, so we consider them to be star networks when it's wireless. Right, that's the star network type, and that's the one we have at home there. So your home, you're most likely to use that with Wi-Fi. Now the disadvantage of Wi-Fi is, and this kind of network, is it costs more. So you do need one of these hubs or switches that has a wireless transmitter on it, and each one of those devices needs to connect wirelessly as well. Okay, so that's your star network. Now that's by far and away the most common one, so let's look at that in more detail. We can have problems with our good old star network. One of the problems is, say you've got a brick wall between the laptop you want to use and your home hub. Is what's going to go on there is the Wi-Fi signal bounces all the way out, hits the wall, and can't penetrate. This could also be a distance thing as well, so anything that can absorb those radio waves is going to stop a connection. And that's one of its disadvantages. What you then need to do is you need to go out and get a repeater. Now a repeater effectively is like a mini little hub in its own right. So it will sit there. Now, unlike just any other normal hub, what it can do is it can extend this star network. So you can have the same connections, the same passwords and everything else, only this time, instead of it connecting directly to the hub, your hub will connect to your repeater, and then your repeater can connect through it. So, and by this we say that a star network, one of its other advantages is it is extendable. You can make it larger. In fact, you can have a number of these. In some cases, you may even want to connect that extender or that repeater using a small cable. And in fact, that's the thing I do, is I get a much better signal. I do that. So I use my good old Ethernet cable and I connect them through that way. Some of them will even work through the earth on the power supply. Most of them, however, will use wireless to wireless automatically. They're quite cheap. You can get them on eBay for under £20. Okay, so that is the disadvantage of your local Wi-Fi network and a fairly affordable way around it. Okay, our next problem is something that started happening with the rise in the popularity of wireless networks, particularly around the house where people weren't that sure how to use them. Is here we have our little home hub placed on the windowsill, and what we forget about it, of course, is it's not just broadcasting internally, which is what we want, but in this case the thing is also broadcasting externally, and we have a drive-by hacker. Now what he's doing is they're going past and they're looking for unsecured networks. As soon as they get through onto an unsecured network, and that just means your box, or a network where the password isn't difficult to guess, which can happen, then unfortunately for you, you have just revealed to them the entire contents of what's going on inside your house. So that maybe you've opened them up onto your home computer with all your personal files are there. Now they can read everything. They could even put software in to track you. The other thing they can do now is they can reprogram your hub as well to always accept them or to repeat off to somewhere externally. Other things I've actually heard of happening is you may know that you can buy security cameras for the house. Quite often you'll get these as part of your burglar alarm system, but there are other methods of using it, and they can then log into those and get access to your video footage and quite literally spy on you, which is actually, I think, more disturbing if you have somebody permanently watching you. And they only ever need to make the connection once, because once they're onto your network, as I said, they can reprogram your hub and they can allow themselves access remotely from anywhere, particularly if they get a computer. So now, to stop this happening, I'm sure most of you have done this, is you have to authenticate nowadays when you use Wi-Fi. There's various different ones. One of the more popular ones was something called WEP. And when you authenticated by giving a key to the little wireless box, it then accepted you, it knew who you were, and it would then remember. It would go, ah yes, okay, that's who you are, that's fine. Your machine then hopefully would keep that key, and in future you can just connect anytime you like. Another way of doing it nowadays is quite often you see a little button on both devices, and you just press that button on both devices and they synchronize, and that's another way to do the security. So you have to physically be at the station itself. So you even need to know your access key, or you need to press a Wi-Fi synchronize button, and those will then allow you connections. But this guy here, unfortunately now, you've taken all his fun away, and he now is just going to have to give up and very sadly go home. No more wireless for you, I'm afraid. Okay, you've gone to your favourite coffee shop. So there you are in Troy Coffee, and you're having a lovely nice coffee, and you're using their free Wi-Fi service, and they're absolutely fine with this as long as you keep drinking coffee. And you know it's them because it calls themselves Troy Coffee. And you go, okay, I recognize you. And you authenticate to it. And everything is happy as you're talking wirelessly to them. However, something a lot of people have started doing, and you've got to be really careful of this, is that they sit nearby, possibly even next door to you. They then set up their laptop with their own little box, and they call their box Troy Coffee as well. You have no reason to suspect that that isn't the genuine article. So when you log in, you scan for devices, you see a nice strong signal there, you say, oh, okay, excellent, I'll go for that one. You connect through to their wireless. They then have their own means of connecting you onto the internet. And you think, well, what's the harm in that? What, they're giving me free Wi-Fi. But the problem is now, is since all your data is passing through to them, they can read it, they can log it, they can look at it, they can get your bank details, your emails, your passwords, pretty much everything you're doing then flows through their machine, and they can siphon off the data they want. So you have to be very, very careful nowadays. Is never trust a public network. Is you're never entirely certain, is it actually the real people or is it somebody else? Okay, so let's do a quick recap. Right, so for a recap, we have two types of Wi-Fi network. The first one is ad hoc. And remember, ad hoc, in this one we are using Bluetooth most often. The advantages of this kind of network is it is very cheap. Disadvantages, it usually only works over a small distance, but very quick to set up. You don't need any expensive hardware sitting in the middle of it. The other type we have is, of course, the Star. With the Star, which often we just refer to as plain old Wi-Fi, it needs a hub or a switch that's wireless, activated, sitting there. It has some massive advantages, other than the fact you need to pay for this extra hardware, is it's extendable, it's faster, but some of its disadvantages are it's very susceptible to hacking, so you either need to use the web key or be very, very careful that somebody else isn't pretending to be a public wireless hotspot for you. Right, there should be a quiz to do. Away you go.